Welcome everybody. All right, let's go ahead and let's make this game here. So let's go ahead and let's click a game here. And what we're going to do is we're going to call this, we can call this something like collect squares game. And I'll say for iPhone, and then I added a production number. You don't have to add that in here if you don't want to. Make sure the language is Swift, SpriteKit, and iPhone. All right, we're going to go ahead and push next, and you want to go ahead and push create. Okay, let's run this just to see if it works. I like to click the game scene.swift and then close it up here. Okay, you always want to make sure that you run everything before you move on, and look at that. Everything's working out quite well. Okay, now I'm going to go and I'm going to delete all the extraneous code that we don't need. We need some of this code. And remember, you can always set this up by yourself if you want, right? So this works. Now we need to add in, well, our items here. So let's add in our first item. We're going to add in the player, make that equal to SK Sprite node. And the SK Sprite node, this is how you set up your player. We're going to add in a variable here. We'll call this collectible. I'll make that equal to SK Sprite node. And there's pretty much going to be two items in this game here. Now we're going to add in the LBL main, make that equal to SK label node. And that SK label node is going to be the label. We're going to add an LBL main. We're also going to add an LBL score. You should probably have at least two labels. You can add more if you wish, but I like just two labels personally. You can do a lot with two. Sometimes I like to add in three if I'm adding in instructions and another timer. So let's add in a touch location. So every time we touch, we're going to store this in this variable here called touch location. Make that equal to a CG point. And the CG point is a variable that takes in an X and Y value. We'll add in a score here, make it equal to 0. We're adding a var, we'll call this player speed. Make that equal to 1.0, and this will be how fast the player travels. We'll also add in a var, we'll call this time collectible spawn, and this will keep track of the spawn time of how many times we spawn the collectibles here. Also make sure you add in an equal sign for that right there. Now what we need to do is we need to add in another variable here. We'll call this time to count down, and we'll make it 17 seconds. Now it's really going to be 15 seconds, but we add in 2 because it takes a couple seconds for the player to kind of orient themselves within the game. Okay. Now what we can also do is we can also add in some colors here. So let's say var. We'll add in off black color, make that equal to UI color, and we'll say this is an RGBA value, and I'm going to give this a 0.15. Okay, and what I like to do is I like to copy it, tab it, paste it, paste it. Remember, RGBA values are red, green, and blue. You make the red, green, and blue all the same. They're a shade of gray. In this case, it's a very dark gray. I like using dark gray instead of black, and then alpha is the transparency. Okay, so let's add in a variable here, and we're going to say that this is off white color. Make that equal to UI color, and it's going to be an RGBA value as well, and we'll make it 0.98. And again, 1.0 is the top, and I'm just going to tab and paste everything in here. And 1.0 is the top, and if you make it all the same, almost 1.0, it's an off-white, so a very light gray. And dark black, dark gray, and very light gray work really well together. Okay, let's add in var. We'll call this orange color custom. Make that equal to UI color dot orange color. Let's add in a few other colors here. We'll call this green color custom. And we'll make that equal to UI color dot green color. Now, the colors that come with this, sometimes they're not very good. So we might have to redo this later and theme the colors. So we'll call this purple color custom, make that equal to UI color dot purple color. And then it's going to say var blue color custom, make it equal to UI color dot blue color. And I think this is probably pretty good, although we could add in the trickiest color to theme, which is red. So we'll call this red color custom UI color. Now I'm giving you a very standard color scheme. You have a dark gray, an off white, and a random color. These three color combinations you can actually make really well. And you can add in a fourth color if you really want to. But I like these three colors. I like to keep things simple. Okay. What we need to do next is we need to add in a physics category. So the way that SpriteKit deals with physics is that imagine if you throw a ball at a wall. Well, to the computer, the ball is number one and the wall is number two. So what the computer checks for if one has connected with two. So it's an abstract way of dealing with two objects by giving it a number. So let's add in a struct here. So we'll add the struct, and all this does is this physics category. All this does is it makes it easy to understand. Now we're going to say static let, and then we're going to call this player. We're going to make it a uint 32, and the reason is that the number that we're working with actually is a uint 32. So this will make a little bit more sense once we get into actually adding in physics. But right now we're just setting up the variables, and this will all be explained here. Okay, we'll call this collectible. Make it uint 32. Make it equal to 2. They have to be different numbers. Okay, and since we're here, let's add in some size here. So let's add in player size is equal to UI or CG size actually. And it's going to be, CG size is, well, we could probably make it 60 by 60. Okay, so we'll set the size up here and we'll add in a var. We'll call this collectible size. Make it equal to CG size. And the collectibles can be fairly small. Let's make them 10 by 10. And I'm just pushing tab to go in between those two, okay? So we've now set up pretty much everything in here. What we need to do next is we need to set up our objects. And I'm going to show you how to do that in the next tutorial.